All right, we'll call the White Bear Township Town Board meeting of January 7th, 2019 to order. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Patrick informs me we're going to delete items 10B and C.
Correct.
No additions?
Additions, sir.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Second item on the agenda is approval of payment of the bills. Are we gonna be able to do that, Patrick, until we swear in?
Yes, we should be able to do that before.
I'll move to pay, approve payment of the bills.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion also carries. All right, now we need a motion for item 4, the approval of the minutes of December 17th, 2018. Anybody, any additions, corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 17th, 2018. There were some minor errors that have been corrected prior to this meeting.
Correct.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion also carries. Now, for the viewing audience, we have a treat tonight. We get to swear in a newly re-elected member of our town board and a brand-new town board member. So you want to do Steve first?
Looks like we've got Steve on the list first.
Do I have to read it, or are you going to read it to me?
I'll read it to you.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, right hand up. I, Stephen A. Ruzick, do solemnly swear
I, Stephen A. Ruzek, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota
I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully discharge the duties of Town Board Supervisor
and faithfully discharge the duties of Town Board Supervisor.
of the Town of White Bear in the County of Ramsey and state of Minnesota.
Too much at once. Of the Town of White Bear in the County of Ramsey and the state of Minnesota,
To the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, it's Mr. McCune will now take the same oath. Raise your right hand, you already have it. I, Scott McCune, do solemnly swear
I, Scott McCune, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully discharge the duties of Town Board Supervisor
and faithfully discharge the duties of the Town Board Supervisor
of the Town of White Bear
of the Town of White Bear,
in the County of Ramsey and
County of-
state of Minnesota,
County of Ramsey, and state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job. Patrick, do they have to sign in or sign
Yes.
their oaths before we can continue?
Do we have to, or Bill, do we have to sign there?
No, we can do that afterwards.
I've got it, but we don't have to, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next 2 weeks, that's all.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, I stand.
Item number 6, this is where we start our organizational meeting. We have to go through and elect our chair, vice chair, commission liaisons. There's going to be a number of them here, so we get started. First order is to appoint a town board chair.
I'd make a motion to appoint Ed Pradon as Town Board Chair for the year 2019.
We need a second.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Now, we needed a motion to appoint the town board vice chair, and I would recommend that we appoint Steve Ruzek as vice chair.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. You had to think
Well,
about
I
it?
thought maybe you might want to deny it. All right, third on the list is appointment for clerk treasurer.
I'll make a motion to appoint Patrick Christofferson as our clerk treasurer for 2019.
I'll second that.
Here's your last chance to bail.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and next we have the finance officer, deputy treasurer.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Kelly as our finance officer / deputy treasurer for 2019.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion also carries. Next, we have township officials. And first on the list, I need a motion for our code enforcement officer.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Mike Johnson for the building official, code enforcement officer, and compliance official for 2019.
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Now we need a motion for our hearing officer.
I'll make a motion that the honorary Harry Crump be appointed as our hearing officer for 2019.
And I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion also carries. Now we have an appointment for economic development coordinator.
I'll move that Patrick Christopherson be named the economic development coordinator for 2019.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion also carries. Now we need an appointment for Public Works Director. Last chance, Dale.
I'll move that Dale Reed be appointed Public Works Director for 2019.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And now we need an appointment for Township Planner.
I'll move that Tom Redessel be named the 2019 planner.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion also carries. Next is the Fire Marshal, Fire Chief.
I'll make a motion that Greg Peterson be appointed the 2019 Fire Marshal / Fire Chief for White Bear Township.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion also carries. Now we need an Assistant Weed and Tree Inspector.
Mr. Chair, if I may, you have, we have a late addition to that recommendation that you had Paul Peltier,
As a,
Assistant
Assistant Fire
Weed
Chief?
and Tree Inspector,
Paul Peltier is,
to be added for, as an Assistant Weed and Tree Inspector.
oh, okay.
Not in
He received
place
his
of.
certification.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll move that Tom Redessel, Pete Tolan, and Paul Peltier be named Assistant Weed and Tree Inspectors for 2019.
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries. Okay, now we're on to Town Board Liaisons to the Advisory Commission Boards. I need a motion for Park Board Liaison, and I will nominate Steve Ruzek.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Then we need a motion for Planning Commission Liaison, and I will nominate Steve Ruzek for that position.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion also carries. And we need a motion for Utility Commission Liaison. We had some discussion at our exec board meeting, and we conferred that I would like to nominate Scott McEwen for that position.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion also carries. Now we need an appointment for Public Safety Commission Liaison.
I'll nominate Scott McCune.
And I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. And now we need a motion for Economic Development Advisory Board.
I'll nominate Ed Pradon for Economic Development Advisory Board Liaison.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? That motion carries. All right, moving on, we have representatives to the organizations. First off is the Ramsey County League of Local Governments. I would nominate Steve Ruzek for that position. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Steve, you're in. We also need an alternate for that position. I would nominate Patrick Christopherson to hold that position.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion also carries. Now we need a Minnesota Association of Townships representative. And I would nominate Steve Ruzek for that position.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then I need a nomination for the alternate Minnesota Association of Townships.
That would, I'll nominate Patrick Christopherson.
You gotta get in there, Scott. And I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well, that motion also carries. Vadnais Lake Area Water Management Organization for the Board of Directors.
I'll move to appoint Ed Pradon as Vadnais Lake Area Water Management Organization Board of Directors.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion also carries. And then we need an alternate for the Belamo Board.
I'll move Scott McCune to be the alternate.
I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed? Motion also carries. Now we have the Vadnais Lake Area Water Management Technical Committee. Need an appointment for that?
I'll move for Paul Duxbury to be appointed to the Technical Committee.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. For the alternate for the Vadnais Lake Area Water Management,
I'll move Tom Burdess will be the alternate, staff alternate.
And I'll second.
motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion also carries. Ramsey/Washington County Cable Commission,
I'll move Ron Den be appointed to the Ramsey White Bear, or Ramsey Washington County Cable Commission.
I'll second that.
motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ron is now our commissioner, the alternate.
Nominate Luke Michon as the alternate.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of Luke?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Now we need a representative for the White Bear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce. And I would nominate Steve Ruzek for that position.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Then we need an alternate for the White Bear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce.
Nominate Patrick Christopherson as the alternate.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Nays? That motion carries. And now we need a representative for the Rush Line Corridor. I would nominate Scott McCune for that position.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. And for the alternate,
Move for Tom Burdessel to be the alternate for staff.
I'll second that.
my pen quit. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that takes care of the organizational, or the representatives. Now we move on to professional services. First one up is town attorney.
I'll move to make Chad Lemon and Patrick Kelly, Assistant Attorney Kelly and Lemon, as our town attorneys for 2019.
I'll second that.
It should be clear, Mr. Chair, that's civil only.
Is to what?
Civil
Civil
only.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got that in the minutes, Joan? All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome back, Chad.
Thanks, I'm glad to be here.
All right, the next professional service is
Excuse
town
me, Mr.
engineer.
Chair, We need to also nominate a prosecuting attorney, too. That'd be Should be on the list is Carolyn Bell Beckman.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's on the
It's
list.
coming up.
It's coming up.
Okay.
We got her.
First, we'll do the town engineer.
I'll move to appoint Jim Stradinsky and Larry Poplar of TKDA and Associates as our town engineers for 2019.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next on the list is town prosecutor.
I'll move to appoint Caroline Bell Beckman, Carrie Quinn, her assistant, at Erickson, Bell, Beckman, and Quinn as our town prosecutors attorneys for 2019.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay? All right. That motion carries. Now for our town auditor.
I'll move to appoint Chris Knopick of Clifton Larson Allen LLP for our town auditor for 2019.
Second that.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Financial bonding and advisors.
Nominate Terry Heaton of Springstead, Inc. as a 2019 appointment for financial and bonding advisors.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, next one is for professional services, the environmental consultant slash scientist slash traffic slash transportation consultants.
I'll move to appoint Brad Wozniak of Short, Elliott, and Hendrickson as the environmental consultants slash scientists slash traffic slash transportation consultants for 2019.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Next is our animal control officer.
I nominate Officer Mario Lee of Ramsey County Sheriff's Office as Animal Control Officer for 2019.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For our electrical inspector,
I'll nominate Jim Mantefall, Summit Inspections, as the Electrical Inspector for 2019.
I'll second.
motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Our recording secretary, we actually have two this year.
I'll move to appoint Joan Clements and Megan Kavanaugh for the recording secretaries for 2019.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now our cable technician.
I'll nominate Lisa Senapol for cable technician for 2019.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? That motion carries. This last one is our town veterinarian.
Nominate Dr. Amy Krakowski and Shelley Langley, Dr. Langley, at Lake Area Animal Hospital as the town veterinarians for 2019.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I think we missed town arborist.
Ooh, what?
Huh?
Not on the list.
Should have been right under cable technician and right before veterinarian.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda,
But
but
it's not on your appointment list, though.
who was our arborist last year?
I don't remember his name, but
Bailey Tree?
It might be in the minutes,
Okay,
the minutes of last year's
okay.
appointments.
I'll follow up on that, folks.
Do you have the real name, or is it, we're gonna just go with a,
Yeah.
that was a company we used, right?
Yep,
We can always do it the next meeting.
I'll do it
Okay.
at the next meeting. I'll get it for you.
All right, so next we have establishing the Robert's Rules of Order for our meetings. So I would need a motion to adopt the Robert's Rules of Order.
I'll make a motion to adopt Robert's Rules of Order as the official rules of conduct for town board meetings and appoint the town attorney as the parliamentarian for all town board meetings.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have an appointment for our designated official posting place.
I'll make a motion to designate the following places as the township's official legal posting places. First, the Township Administrative Offices, 1281 Hammond Road. Second, Heritage Hall, 4200 Otter Lake Road. Third, Bel Air Park, 2560 County Road F. Fourth, Glider Park, 2626 Suzanne Circle. And last, well number 6, 2525 Buffalo Street.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion also carries. Next, we have our official newspaper.
I'll move to appoint Press Publications, designate the White Bear Press as the official newspaper for the township for 2019.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Now we have establishing our meeting dates.
All right, I'll move to set the first Monday of each month as the regular town board meeting date, set the third Monday of each month as the special town board meeting date, unless otherwise designated by the town board, with meetings to be held at the Heritage Hall, 4200 Otter Lake Road, beginning at 7 o'clock p.m. And also move to set the fourth Friday of each month as the date for the town board executive meeting, unless otherwise designated by the town board, with meetings to be held at the Township Administrative Offices, 1281 Hammond Road, beginning at 11 o'clock a.m. And ratify the EDA, you want to do those first, or you want to do it all together? Do it all?
We should be able to do all this together.
You
can't we,
know
Chad?
those together, yes.
Okay.
Be fine.
Ratify the EDA action to set the third Monday of each month as the regular meeting date for the Economic Development Authority meetings, unless otherwise designated by the town board, to be held at the Heritage Hall, 4200 Otter Lake Road, beginning at 6:40 p.m.
I'll second all that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Now we're moving on to, what do we got here? Advisory Board, Commission Members, Service Providers. This is where we normally recognize our folks in the township who volunteer their services for our different commissions. Normally, we do these if you are the liaison. We pretty much take that lead. So the first one we have is the EDAB members. Scott, you're still on that one. at the
So
time,
I'd like to recognize the following EDAB members. Myself, Paul Kelleher, Beth Artner, Robert Sherman, Thomas Horrick, and Kent Bruner.
And next, we have recognize the following Park Board members.
I'd like to recognize Eric Josephson, Scott Lombardi, Patricia Lee, Steve Reeves, Selena Coster, and Kurt Aikenson, Park Board members.
And next, we have the Planning Commission members.
I'd like to recognize the following Planning Commission members: Steve Swisher, Ron Den, Beth Artner, Zachary Flan, David Kalipnik, Bill Patrick, and Monica Lowe's.
And next, we have Public Safety, which I'm liaison to. I'd like to recognize Steve Lee, who is our chair, James Lynn, Patrice Stedman, Sandra LeBlanc, Richard Bruckner, Janice Timmers, Connie Anderson, who is our representative also for the White Bear Lake Fire Department, and Mark Griffin is an alternate.
And I'll recognize the following Utility Commission members: Paul Groshin, who is the chair, Nancy Person, Trent Bernstein, Dennis DeLoach, myself, Sylvia Hess, and George Fredericks.
And then we'd also like to recognize the following Township Public Service Providers: the Ramsey County Sheriff's Department and the White Bear Lake Fire Department. They do an outstanding job for us. All right, next we're going to go to, coming up, Our consent agenda. We got a number of them on here. Steve, you want to read through them?
I'll read through the consent agenda. Item 7A is the approved freezing the utility connection charge for 2019. Item 7B is to approve the 2019 Northeast Youth and Family Services Agreement. 7C is to approve the 2019 Fire Service Contract Addendum. 7D is to call a special town board meeting for Monday, January 14th, 2019, beginning at 4 o'clock p.m. at Lucy's Burgers, 1190 County Road J, Suite 700, to attend a retirement gathering. Item 7E is to call another special town board meeting for Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, beginning at 6 o'clock p.m. at the White Bear Lake City Council Chambers to attend a lake level meeting. Item 7F is to receive Roger Carlson's request and refer to the Sheriff's Office for review and comment for a speed limit sign. Item 7G is a bank depository designation. Based on the staff review and recommendations, designate institutions outlined in the staff memo and adopt resolution designating persons to handle township bank accounts. Item 7H, adopt a resolution not recognizing Columbus Day as a holiday for the township. Item 7I, adopt a resolution recognizing the Friday after Thanksgiving as a holiday. And item 7J is adopt a resolution to participate in the I-35E Corridor Management Team for 2019. Motion to approve consent agenda items 7A through 7J.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed? Okay, that motion also carries. Item number 8 is old business. We have Public Works Director's item, Town Park Trash and Recycling. Dale?
So Public Works would like to continue with the phase replacement of the existing, or, damaged trash and recycling receptacles with new ones. They began the program a couple of years ago. We did, and we're going to continue again this year. We got a mixture of exposed aggregate, concrete, aggregate, recycled plastic, expanded metal, and recycling receptacles out in the system. The new receptacles would have been surface mounted on a concrete base. Public Works pours the base and then mounts the new cans. We've received 3 different quotes from 3 different vendors for the quantities identified. The first one was from K Park and Recreation for $12,757.40. The second one was from Kirby Built for $13,557.18. And the third was from Barco for $14,420.26. We're recommending that we go for approve the quote from K Park and Recreation with the funding to come from the trash was amount from the general fund $7,382.40 of that $12,757.40. The remainder would be funded by the SCORE fund, and that's $5,375 for the total expenditure of $12,757.40. And recommend town board action is to accept the quote, and then for trash and recycling containers, and approve the purchase from K Park and Recreation for the amount of $12,757.40.
All right, any questions on the board? Dale, would you, I know Tom's not here, but would you explain SCORE funding?
From what I understand, it's money received from the county. There's the source. There are
I think it actually comes from the state.
state through the county. Okay, so a little clear. Thank you, Bill. So it's like grant. It's a grant.
Yep.
So
Right, this is some of the funding that also takes care of our township days cleanup, I believe.
yeah, SCORE funding does.
Okay.
Yes,
And the spring cleanup.
that's what I think. What you were. That's what. Yeah.
All right, is that something, Dale, we get started on immediately then? Or are you gonna wait till
Oh,
spring?
they'll probably get them ordered, yes, and then, you know, of course, the bases, we'd have to wait till the weather accommodates that installation, so.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion for the Public Works Director's recommendation?
I'll move based on Public Works Director's review and recommendation, receive the quotes and approve the quote from K Park Recreation in the amount of $12,757.40, with $7,382.40 of that in funding from the Park Improvement Fund coming, and $5,375 from the SCORE Fund.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. Item number 9, public hearings. We have none this evening. So we'll move on to item number 10, which is new business. Our town engineer is gonna go over our pavement management plan. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Here again before you to talk about pavement management. We have recently completed a study of the town's streets, and we have prepared a pavement management booklet, which I passed out before the meeting. And it's really looking at the town streets as a whole and making recommendations both for what streets should be improved, when, and the costs involved and how they could be funded. So we've put together a funding plan as well. So I'll walk through, I have a PowerPoint presentation to walk through the plan. Kind of first of all, pavement management, just to give more of a definition for those in the audience and who might be watching, it's a plan for maintenance activities and improvements to basically prolong the life of the street and get the most out of the initial investment. Really trying to get the most out of our streets. That first investment, that construction or reconstruction is very costly, and so it's trying to preserve that investment. Assure we have safe streets in town, and by doing that, it helps preserve some of the property values. So kind of going back to square one, why do streets deteriorate? And, you know, basically once a street is put in place, from that point on, it begins the process of degrading. I've listed the main sources of that. The first and foremost is drainage, and if drainage is not controlled properly on a street, it will degrade at a faster pace. Water, if it enters cracks in the street or gets to the edges and doesn't have proper control, it gets beneath the street, can freeze and thaw and move materials and move the pavement, and the streets begin to degrade faster. The second is the soil beneath the street. Certainly if you have free draining soil, you can get a longer life out of your street, but if there's clay soils that kind of hold moisture, it can again help with freezing and thawing of the street. It can freeze and thaw can move those materials and cause degradation faster. In White Bear Township, we are lucky that there are a lot of decent soils in town, so that's part of the good news here tonight is we can get a longer life out of our streets because of the underlying soil conditions. Original street construction, so if the street wasn't built to a high enough standard to begin with, you're not obviously going to get the life of a long life out of that street. Volumes of traffic and the weight of that traffic can also assist in the loading on that street, can degrade the streets faster if they are more heavily traveled or heavier trucks or vehicles are traversing that street. We've talked about freeze thaw, but also utility impacts. If there's a lot of utility repairs that need to occur on a street, and you're cutting into that street and disturbing that soil, it can also degrade quickly. So this is a degradation curve. So streets degrade on a curve like this. Now, by the factors I just discussed, that curve can be different for every street, depending on how it was originally constructed, if there's good drainage, if the loading of the street is heavier. That curve can be sharper. This is a curve just for graphic representation of it, but the column on the side, the ratings, the township rates their streets on a 0 to 5 scale, and they rate the streets about every 3 years they get to every street. And so the ratings, the streets are rated on a 0 to 5 scale based on the condition and rideability of that street. And so you can see when a street is brand new, for example, it's a 5. It's a new functioning roadway. As it degrades over time, it goes toward 0 with age. So I got a couple of pictures here to show you. This is a street in town, Pine Hill Lane, which was recently constructed, brand new street. So obviously that street has a rating of 5, and so that's what a street like that looks like. A 4 is Feather Court as an example. That street is rated at a 4. And as we go lower in that rating, you can start to see the cracks on the pictures. So this is a street, Hobie Lane, rating 3.03, and you can start to see some of the cracking that starts to occur, as the street is older and has had use over that time. Rating 2.03, O'Connor's Alley. Now you can see on this picture that the edges are cracking heavily. There's some water that's pooling on the edges, and again, that water, improper drainage, it is can degrade that edge of the pavement and freeze and thaw and cause damage. Rating 1, I got 2 examples, Reed Place 1.87 and Hoaxie Avenue 1.53. Some pictures of those streets. And an example of a 0 might be a gravel roadway like Peterson Road, our last gravel roadway in town. There's a couple pictures here. It's a gravel roadway as you can expect what it would look like, but you can see on the picture on the right that the drainage again, even though it's a gravel roadway, the erosion that can occur on the edge, because that edge isn't protected, it erodes down, and it can make for, in this case, 6-inch to 8-inch slope and hole, and on that edge might not be the safest thing if you're driving too close to that edge. Okay, I'm going to spend a little time on this graphic. Now, the degradation of a street, I just had shown the graphically, follows, I'm sorry, my mouse is not working, follows that red line. And so it starts on the left axis, it's basically 100%, and it goes down to 0 over time. And so if you follow the red line over the course of 30 years, if you do nothing to that street other than build it, you might get 30 years out of that street if you aren't doing other maintenance activities to the street. At year 30, because that street is in poor condition, you haven't done things to maintain that road, you might be looking at a reconstruction project, which again is a very costly improvement. And so this is the red line I'm speaking of, and if at year 30 you have to do another reconstruction project, bring it back up to 5, and again do nothing, you might get another 30 years out of it. So 60 years of life you are doing the initial construction and then a reconstruction on that street. Now, if you follow the blue line and you are performing maintenance on the street, right around year 3 or 4, you might do a seal coat and crack sealing. And again in year 8. And you're increasing the condition of the roadway, the surface, and sealing up those cracks. You're going to get a longer life out of that street just by doing those 2 activities. But then by year 20, you might be considering a mill and overlay project, which is less expensive than any reconstruction project. And that can bring it back up, not all the way to the top, but you're bringing up to a nice drivable new surface. Again, you're doing some strategic seal coats in that time frame, and again another mill and overlay maybe at year 40 of that street, and then it goes down to 60 years.
There, you want to explain mill and overlay?
Yeah, so mill and overlay is you're removing that upper surface of the pavement, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and repaving over it. So you have a basically new pavement on this surface, but you're sealing up all those cracks that have developed over those first 20 years, and you're getting a new drivable, new rideability with that new paving with that project. But you're not digging deeper, you're not removing all the pavement, you're salvaging the remaining 2 inches of asphalt and the underlying aggregates beneath the street. So by following the blue line versus the red line, you are saving approximately 33% of costs by performing the right improvements and right maintenance at the right time for those streets to get the most life out of that initial construction investment, which is the most costly component of street construction. So we looked at the township street system, and Dale Reed and his staff have a good database of information on the streets within the town. We checked and verified the lengths and widths of the streets to get a good base of what the square footage of streets, mileage of streets are in town. And just to share some of that, we have 42.9 miles of township streets. And if they were built today, that infrastructure would cost $80 million. So we have an asset here of $80 million that we're trying to manage and get the most out of that investment. White Bear Township began paving roads in 1960, and concrete curb and gutter began in common practice right around 1980. The pie charts you see are illustration of the different ages of the street, the initial construction of the street, and so fairly well distributed, other than half the streets were built between 1970 and 1990. Now the pavement age is a little bit different because you have had some projects reconstructed or had mill and overlay on it as well. So we talked a lot about drainage already, but so concrete curb and gutter is again a practice that started right around 1980 in common construction practice, and it really helps control that drainage and gets that water to a storm sewer basin and off the street. It protects that edge from erosion and edge failure. If you're driving, say after a rainstorm and you don't have concrete curb and gutter, you're driving on that edge, in the right conditions, that edge can crack and break. It also helps with safety. It defines the street. It helps reduce plow damage for that edge. with that edge. It also is a good edge for street sweeping and mowing. It's more rigid than bituminous curb. Now, bituminous curb, there are streets in town that have bituminous curb, and bituminous curb just doesn't hold up the way concrete does. In the summertime, if people are parking adjacent to the bituminous curb or on the bituminous curb, it can compress. Plowing in the wintertime, if you get too close to that bituminous curb, it can break off, and over time, it just doesn't last the way concrete curb and gutter does. Right today, 36% of the streets in town have concrete curb and gutter. There's a couple of pictures. The top picture is a street with concrete curb and gutter, and the picture below might be a little tough to see, but you can. There's edge failure occurring, erosion occurring along that edge because there isn't any concrete curb and gutter. So I mentioned this, the township evaluates our streets and are rated on a scale of 0 to 5. We've looked at the ratings that the township staff has provided, and on a system-wide basis, the average rating, or the rating of the system as a whole is 3.4 of the system as a whole. We really want to be within 3.4 and 3.6. So the overall system rating of 3.4 is right about average on the low end, but it's right at that point where if it can fall below that 3.4, we're maybe now we need to try to do some improvements to get that back up, so we have a system rating within our recommended rating goals. To give a little bit information on what rating is where, if streets fall below a 2.2, they should be considered for reconstruction or rehabilitation. Just going back to the slide here, that 2.2 area is kind of right in here. So when they get to that point, you're going to want to look at reconstruction project for that street. Now, the other category we look at is mill and overlay category, and that's between the 2.2 and the 3.25 on the curve. And that's the point in time where you want to consider getting that mill and overlay done before we get into the category of a more costly repair or reconstruction or rehabilitation. So between that 2.2 and 3.25 is where you want to catch streets and get mill and overlay projects done before they get into that next and more severe category.
Larry, I got a question for you. If you're gonna do a mill and overlay and it doesn't have concrete curb and gutter, can you do it at that time?
That would be more of a reclamation project.
Okay. So the mill and overlay is just basically gonna do whatever's there. If it's asphalt curb, then it's gonna stay asphalt curb.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I just talked about those three categories. So the green is, in this pie chart, is the streets that are above that 3.25 rating. Those are, in that category, you're looking at crack sealing and seal coating projects. And the good news is roughly 60% of the streets in town are in that green category, which is good. It's a good percentage. The next category, as I mentioned, yellow, is kind of the mill and overlay category. That's that 2.2 to 3.25. I would say that yellow category is low from what I would envision. I would have thought when going into this we'd have more in that category. But then the red category is that category where you have the more severe degradation. And in that red category, we have 11 miles, or 25% of the township roads are in that red category, which I would say is a higher percentage than you'd really want to be at. So we took the data and we made an educated assumption on the degradation rate. Assuming each street degrades at a 0.1 of the rating per year. And you can see what that does to the distribution of green, red, and yellow. If we do not do improvements for the next 5 years, that the average rating goes from the 3.4 to a 2.93. We have 2.8 additional miles of roads in that 2.2 category. And the pie chart to the right is if it's that same analysis only for 10 years. And we end up with another 5.8 miles of roadways below the 2.2 in the red category. And you can see we have a lot more of that mileage in the yellow as well. So I've kind of talked a little bit about some of these best management practices for streets. I'm going to go through those individually. So crack sealing and seal coating, again, that is sealing up the cracks and performing a chip seal of that surface. And you're kind of sealing up that surface so moisture, those cracks are sealed, it's not getting into the street pavement. It increases the street rating a little bit, but it can extend the life of a road by 7 to 15 years. Now, you probably can only do about 2 or even, in some cases, three seal coats on a street before having to do a mill and overlay or reconstruction, because the pavement oxidizes or becomes where it can't accept that chip seal. So you can only do a number of these for each street. Mill and overlay, as I described, you're removing that upper 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and putting in new asphalt over that existing pavement and base. We've computed costs for if it's a street that has bituminous curb at $3 a square foot. If it has concrete curb and gutter already, sometimes that concrete curb and gutter can settle or crack. We want to repair those areas that have settled and cracked, so the cost goes to $4 a square foot. Again, we'd recommend completing a mill and overlay project between that 2.2 and 3.25 degradation rate, but maybe even below 2.7 is where you want to consider that. Rehabilitation is for a street that has concrete curb and gutter, but the pavement has seen its life, but the aggregate beneath the street is in good condition. You remove all the bituminous and repave the 3 to 4 inches of new bituminous, and so you're removing all the bituminous and replacing all the bituminous. In that case, you have, if it has concrete curb and gutter, you are removing and replacing damaged concrete curb and gutter as well. So this is a option if there is concrete curb and gutter that's cheaper than a full reconstruction. It's $5 a square foot. Reclamation is where you mill up or grind up the existing bituminous and use that bituminous, the millings, the grinded bituminous as a base for a new pavement over it. And so that's a tool in some cases where you could use that if you do it properly. You can use that as base for new pavement. for this is an option that could be used for streets that don't have concrete curb and gutter. You mill up the bituminous, use it for base of the new bituminous, but also add curb and gutter on the edges. And so we computed costs of adding that curb and gutter and doing this reclamation work at $9 a square foot. And then reconstruction is really you're replacing everything and putting in curb and gutter. And that's the most costly repair, $12 a square foot. So you're replacing the base beneath the street, you're removing everything, replacing the base, adding concrete curb and gutter, and new bituminous. Okay, I want to try to think about the system as a whole. We have 42.9 miles of street, and if we're trying to get 60 years of life out of the street, basically doing the math, you need to reconstruct or do rehabilitation or reclamation projects for 0.7 miles of street per year to stay on pace with the degradation that's occurring in the township. And if we do our mill and overlays at the right time for the life of each pavement, you're going to have 2 mill and overlays for that street over those 60 years. So doing the math again, with the number of miles of streets, we should be doing 1.4 miles of mill and overlays per year to extend the life of those streets. So if we assume we are doing those improvements, 0.7 miles per year and 1.4 miles of mill and overlay, the township could expect in today's dollars to be spending $2.2 million per year on street improvements to keep up with the degradation of our streets. Again, if this accounts for the 2.2 million accounts for reconstruction and mill and overlay. If we can find other solutions during as we're studying the individual streets that we can use reclamation or use rehabilitation, those numbers may be less than that 2.2 million. So, with 7 miles between the ratings of 2.2 and 3.25, we want to perform those mill and overlay projects to prevent those from getting to that more severe category. So, I would like the township to consider those as being maybe a higher priority than reconstruction, because we want to save that initial investment and catch those streets before they get to that lower rating. But we do have 11 miles below that 2.2 rating, and in the short term, we might want to catch up and get our system maybe back in line with more of a 10% of streets that are in that category. So we've put together a plan for project groupings for the next 5 years. Includes for that first year, 2019, 4 mill and overlay projects and 1 reclamation project. And then we are recommending improvements for the southeast area. We have three different areas we looked at for improving the southeast area. It seems to be the next area that we'd recommend completing improvements. And then in 2023, the Williams and Hoaxie area, we'd recommend that in 2023, as well as another mill and overlay project in 2023 as well. And by doing those improvements in that plan, we can increase our average rating of the system to 3.52, and you can kind of see that distribution. 72% would be, we're predicting, would be in that greenish category. Our mileage of the yellow is probably about or roughly the same, but the mileage of red, that severe category, is lessened. So all that's well and good. That's a great plan, Larry, but how are we going to pay for it? So We looked at funding options for funding this plan, and we looked at spreading out those costs into several different funds, including the tax levy, using assessments, water fund, sanitary sewer fund, stormwater fund. And then we've also been discussing at a township level the use of franchise fees, bonding as a strategy, and other ideas. So we have 3 scenarios we ran. We ran a funding plan with those streets we are recommending at using an assessment rate of 100%, which is the current standard or policy of the township. And we also looked at a 50% assessment rate. So the costs of improvements, especially reconstruction, even reclamation, adding curb, if we use the 100% assessment rate, you get into assessments that are quite high. And by state statute, state law, we can't assess. We can only assess up to the benefit received, which means we can only assess if the property is valued at X today, the assessment can't be more than X plus their assessment after the project. So if it's a $200,000 property and we have say a $20,000 assessment, the property after the project must be at a value of $220,000. So in other words, the value of the assessment. So with the assessment rate of 100%, that gets to be a challenge for some of the larger improvement projects, the reconstruction projects. So a lot of communities that we work in, our firm works in, are using more of that 50% rate for assessments because of that consideration. And so we ran a plan with a 50% assessment rate. But of course, if we aren't assessing, or if we aren't assessing 100%, where does that other 50% come from? And so we distribute those costs, again, through the stormwater, sanitary sewer, and the storm sewer fund as well. And those storm sewer funds help pay for the new, if there's new concrete curb and gutter, there's new pipe and storm sewer catch basins that need to be put in place. We assign those costs to the stormwater fund. So 50% assessment rate, you are possibly looking at increasing the stormwater rates as well to be able to fund that portion. And then on this funding plan, for now we've put the other components as tax levy as well. So perhaps the overall tax levy would need to be increased to complete these projects. This is a graphic I put together here last week to kind of show how we could phase in the improvements at that 50% assessment rate for the tax levy portion of the work. Now again, 50% is assessed. The other 50% is maybe tax levy. So if we are doing 2 miles of street, or $2 million worth of improvements per year, and 50% of that is paid by assessment, the tax levy needs to make up that other million, plus or minus the stormwater and water and sewer components. So the township, if they want to follow this plan, should be prepared for tax levy of if you're spreading out that $1 million over 10 years, if we're using bonds, it's basically $100,000 per year of tax levy needed to pay the debt for that improvement. So the bottom lines here, this is the first project, so, and this is, and the bottom axis is the number of years. So that first year, it's $1 million worth of tax levy, that's spread out over 10 years. It's, each year, it's $100,000. So, and if we do another project the next year, that next year is added to that. Now, after year 10, that first one expires, but the next one is on. So each year, those things stack up. If you're doing a $2 million project every year, it kind of phases in the improvements. And so that first year, it's maybe $100,000, and the next year, $200,000, $300,000, up until it balances out in today's dollars at $1 million. So that's what I was trying to describe on the board the other day, and maybe I didn't do a very good job, so I put this graphic together for you. All right, the last component of this analysis was a communication plan. If we are going to endeavor into completing these projects, we want to have good communication with the residents so they know what to expect, a fair timeline on when to expect it, what streets are next on the list. And so we want to use the tools on the board here to do that. First of all, the township website would be a clearinghouse for this booklet, the plan as it's updated and approved. And really, once that website is created, that's the clearinghouse where we can point to, hey, take a look at this plan. If you have questions about your street, when it's going to be redone, look at the website. Then when a project is nearing, we want to send out a project brochure to let people know that, hey, your street is up for consideration for street improvements. You may want to delay putting in that dog fencing. You may want to delay putting that irrigation system in, driveway repairs, because that very next year we might be impacting that with our project. Certainly as a project goes further along, we want to have informational meetings to communicate information, but also take in information. What type of drainage problems are they seeing? What is happening on their street? Is there a grade of the driveway poor that they want us to look at correcting? So we can try to do that with informational meetings to gather information. Questionnaires could be sent out as well to gather information. And then once a project is started, recommend doing an initial newsletter that's gone door to door, so it has contact information for if there's a safety concern or emergency. There's information that they can use. They'll have handle. They put it on the refrigerator during the project. They can make the calls they need to the right people to get answers or alert us to problems that they're seeing. Then, of course, there's always individual meetings or emails, communication once a project is started. So this is a outline of the communication steps we'd recommend, and the red column is staff actions. The blue column is for public communication, and the green column is town board actions. So if a plan is approved, a capital improvement plan is approved, there's still a number of steps. In green you can see before that project is started for construction, including public hearings and ultimately an award of a contract. So these are the general recommendations. We recommend completing the improvements, street improvement at the right time to get the most bang for your buck off that initial street construction, and recommend keeping that rating, that overall system rating, between 3.4 and 3.6. Again, we want to prioritize crack sealing, seal coating, and mill and overlay projects first to get the most bang for your buck out of those by extending the life of the initial street construction. Overall, develop a program averaging 0.7 miles of reconstruction per year and 1.4 miles of mill and overlay projects per year. Recommending approving a funding plan and amending the assessment policy to 50% assessment rate. And again, enhancing that communication. So tonight, the next steps here tonight is for the board to consider accepting and approving the pavement management booklet, which we've prepared. And if appropriate, direct the town engineer to amend the assessment policy for future consideration, as well as direct the town engineer to provide a quote for feasibility engineering for 2019 street improvements. Now again, approval or us completing that feasibility report doesn't mean the project is for sure going to happen. There's still a number of steps, as I outlined, that project needs to get approval from you before it actually is constructed. But if we want to have a chance at completing a 2019 street improvement project, I'd recommend at the next meeting we get approval for a quote to do that feasibility engineering for those street projects.
We're still on a timely manner if we do pick an area that we can still get a project done this year?
A mill and overlay project, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know the board's been reviewing this for the last several months. Any board members have any other questions that Larry didn't cover, or?
I was just curious, on one of the early pie charts, you were showing what percentage of condition each of the streets were, and about 60% is, I guess, above a good threshold, it's green.
Yep.
Is that how does that compare with other areas, with other cities, counties, townships?
Yeah, I was expecting it to be maybe just a little bit less, just on my drives around town. But I think that's a pretty average or pretty good. I just think the red is a little higher than where it should be. The yellow's the mileage for yellow, I think, is in a good ratio. I think the green is in a good ratio. I think the red is in a high ratio.
Well, Dale, you've been working with Larry with this whole project. Do you have anything to add, or?
No, I think he's got covered it all, and, the timing of the seal coating, like he emphasized, to help us extend that early pavement life into the longer run, and also after the mill and overlay. It's just a matter of, we'll determine on what that, if it's 2 or 3 seal coats, it'll depend on condition at that time, and that will be something further Larry and I will discuss, but, yeah.
So, for like 2018, just give us a rough idea. You had to fill potholes and man hours and pothole costs. What have, on average, what have you been doing each year? I mean,
Too much, can I say that?
well, that's,
We spent a fair amount. I wish I had that right with me, but I'm gonna say we had man hours, we had 1,000 man hours, that's adding up, and it's varied times and individuals, and then I'll say close to, I wanna say ton-wise asphalt, for patching, 400 ton.
so those are man hours that could be used elsewhere versus filling potholes.
Absolutely, it could be used, I got a lot of other activities I could be focusing on.
So what was it again for the tonnage, the cost there?
400 ton of asphalt.
Okay.
So, and that's, roughly $70 a ton.
All right.
Well, Dale, how long do you think between you and Larry you can come up with maybe our first target area and bring it before the board?
For this year?
For the first feasibility study for what area we want to concentrate on?
Well, I think we'd go off what Larry recommends because of the mill and overlay.
Yeah.
So I would agree with him to get the best return on investment.
But I mean, I'm talking about a specific project.
So Larry, when you do the feasibility study, is it going to be an evaluation of the entire system and prioritizing therein?
No, the feasibility study is more concentrated on the areas planned for improvement.
Okay.
And so with our project grouping that we are recommending here.
Parkview Drive, for mill and overlay, right?
So we've already determined what we would recommend for streets that should be done for mill and overlay, and they're before you on the screen. It's the Parkview area, Weston Woods, 4th and 5th Street, Hobie area, and then a reclamation project for White Bear Parkway. And so we would complete a feasibility study for that specific area to analyze the costs deeper. These are square footage costs. So it's just analyzing things better and completing a more thorough analysis of what the assessments might be as well.
Okay, well, back to my original question then, if the board decides on, we want to start with those top 4 or 5, and we give you direction to start the feasibility study, can we proceed with that next month, this month?
Yeah, we could bring a quote back to you at the next
Exact meeting?
board meeting
Okay,
and for approval, and then we get started on that.
all right.
And
As a-
just,
As a part of that, we'd look at some technical work as well.
I can add seal coating, just a comparison of cost and the benefit. It's like $1.30 a square yard versus, the minimum was $3 a foot, and a mill and overlay, or maybe it's a little bit more, 5, but just to show the benefit, and then crack sealing's like $1 something a pound, $1.50 a pound.
But it looks like our priorities are mill and overlay pretty much immediately, so.
Well, no, we have that, our general fund is funding the seal coat, so we got that covered, but it's just information sharing.
Right, any other questions, comments? Chad, the engineer has 3 recommendations. Can we cover them all in one, or you want them separately?
Cover them separately.
Okay. Well, first, I would be looking for a motion for approving the payment management.
I'll move to accept and approve the payment management booklet as provided.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion carries. And the next one is direct staff.
I'll move to, at the board's discretion, direct staff to amend the assessment policy to 50%.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And that motion carries. And the third is direct the town engineer.
I'll move at the board's discretion, direct the town engineer to provide a quote for preparation of a feasibility report for 2019 street improvements.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. And now all the students here are pavement management experts. All right, next item on the agenda, general business. We have deleted items B and C, so we'll move on. We have no added agenda items. We come to a time of open time. Any of the students like to get up and say where you're from, school? Big chance.
Speak to the television people. Be proud.
All right, item 13, I need a motion to receive agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we adjourn, on a personal note, from all of us on the town board, township staff, White Bear Township residents, we send our thoughts and prayers to the Klimek family for their loss of the 2 family members on Tuesday, January 1st of this year. I guess we'd also like to thank the men and women of Ramsey County Sheriff's Department, the White Bear Lake Police Department, and all the other law enforcement agencies that responded to that very sad and tragic incident. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.